We met them 3 years before they ultimately sold. It was three partners that had started a company, each of them bringing a particular expertise. One guy was really spearheading sales, one guy spearheaded the technology, and the third partner was operations. And they came together and created this business, which was doing basically data management for the sales teams at pharma companies. And when they started the company, it was a compliance requirement in terms of some new regulation that was requiring pharma companies to do reporting on gifts to doctors. And so they got involved in compliance reporting and then ultimately pivoted the company to be a strategic resource for pharma companies to manage their CRM data and use that to improve their marketing. And so Bell Canyon would go in and implement a data warehouse architecture and then sign up a long-term management contract to manage that data architecture. When we were first introduced to them, the company was relatively small and they had received an offer from a strategic acquirer. It wasn't a particularly attractive offer. And when we met the company, they were a little bit disorganized. And so over the next 3 years in meeting with them and sharing kind of a roadmap to get them ready to sell, they put a lot of the pieces in place. And so 3 years later, they came to us with a well thought out exit plan, and then they put a lot of the building blocks in place to sell the company, audited financials. Each of the departments had a documented succession plan. Each of the partners had their own financial and estate plans ready, so they knew how much they needed to sell for and what their lifestyle was going to be, and so on and so forth. And they were really dialed in and organized. The other thing they had done with their business is they had shifted even more from kind of a consulting service model to a recurring revenue managed services model, which is a much higher margin and a higher multiple business. We went out to private equity firms, we went out to portfolio companies of private equity firms, we talked to a handful of strategic buyers, and we ultimately narrowed down to a handful of private equity backed portfolio companies. And what was really interesting is, since each of the owners had different objectives, they actually wound up picking the buyer that met their sort of career objectives first and foremost and financial objectives second. So one of the owners was able to have a relatively short-term commitment to the buyer and retire and deal with some health and other family issues. One of the other owners was younger and had a full career ahead of him and kind of signed on with this buyer in an executive capacity. And then the third owner did a transition plan. And so by running this process, we were able to find a buyer that sort of fit each of the owner's objectives and put the company in good hands, which was a really cool kind of ancillary benefit of the process. The value that we helped them with in terms of helping them assess that first offer, giving them the roadmap and being a sounding board as they were putting a lot of these pieces in place to prepare the company to be sold for a premium. And then when they were ready, coming in and running a tight process to help them not only get an amazing value for their business, but also find the right partner, was really a win for the guys, and super, super exciting story for us to work on.